you. Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here when I know how disruptive these times are, how busy you are. So thanks for taking the time out. Thanks for taking the time with me. And thanks, Mark, for inviting me. Some of you might know me. I spoke with Kim Marshall at the conference a long time ago, Marco Island, in January. Some of you might know me from the coffee break I did in the spring. It was about addressing racism and pain after the death of George Floyd. And some of you, like Mark said, might know me from your inbox. Each month I send my subscribers, as part of a service called The Main Idea, a summary of an education book along with PD ideas so you can bring those ideas to your school. So you'll have a chance to sign up for that if you are not a member. I don't know if you started the recording, but I'm gonna get started, and I will share my screen and first ask people to introduce themselves in like my model. Okay. Great. Can everybody see that? Okay. Great. It's hard for me to see the chat box when I have this here, so I'm going to have to address questions later. But anyway, if everyone would introduce themselves, share your name, your geographic location, and this is key, one success you've seen a teacher have with distance learning. This can be a success from when we shut down in the spring or since opening now, but one success you've seen a teacher have with distance learning.
So Jen, you'd like people to do that in the chat box?
In the chat box, please, yeah.
All right.
And I am gonna stop sharing for a second just so I can get a better view, see what people are writing. What is a success you've seen a teacher have? 100% attendance, great. Using Padlet. Technology to raise their hands, fantastic. Actively participating in Zoom using shared Google Docs. Great. Pear Deck and social emotional growth. Really making connections at a distance. Yes, it is possible, absolutely. Using those breakout rooms. I'm following all this with my terrible eyes. It's going so quickly. Fantastic. Google Classroom. Encouraging parent engagement. Absolutely. That's key at these times more than ever. Fantastic. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself, please do. Completion of assignments. Wow. We got to find out what's going on in your school. Okay. Great. So thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. Thanks again for being here. When we all shut down in the spring earlier this year, people were calling it distance learning, but really it was more like emergency remote teaching. There was little to no preparation. The students weren't prepared, the teachers, the families, the districts, no one was prepared. And as you saw from that quote on my first slide, 2/3 to 3/4 of teachers said there was less engagement during remote instruction than previously. That's a huge dip. So we need to do something about it. And the truth of the matter is we are now being given a second chance, and we do have the opportunity to put some planning and preparation into place. And all of you, there are over 100 of us on this call, we can and we must impact student learning, and we need to know how to do remote teaching better. In fact, distance learning. Our students, our families are counting on us. Otherwise, we're going to end up with, this is a cover from the New York Times magazine from last weekend. 2020 is going to end up as the lost year, and we don't want that. So we have a chance to do it and to do it better. And that's why these three amazing authors, I don't know if you've heard of them, they're very well known in the field, Douglas Fisher, Nancy Frey, and John Hattie, they came together and very quickly, but extremely professionally put this book together, the Distance Learning Playbook, grades K to 12. And it's a fabulous book. It is often out. You can't get it. It's sold so many copies. And you can see here on the right that I have a summary of it. But the gist of what they're saying is that we need to remind teachers that they haven't forgotten how to teach. Our teachers have not forgotten how to teach. They just might need a little assistance translating what happens in the classroom to the screen. And that's why you're here today, to help a little bit with that adaptation. And there's so much in this book. And I said to Mark, should I just do one module? And you know how Mark is overly optimistic about everything. So he said, I should do the whole thing. So I am going to give you an overview, but know that there needs to be a lot more time on this. And I'm going to give you another tool. Audrey, take note. You can steal it. You can harvest it to introduce a module at a time to your teachers. And this tool that I love for doing adult professional learning is called the 4A learning sequence. It's a great sequence for introducing new content to adult learners. It's got 4 steps. The first step is you anchor the new learning in the learner's experiences. So I actually already did that a little bit in the chat box. I asked everyone to share one success they've seen a teacher have with distance learning. So I was trying to anchor your experience with distance learning with what we're about to do and to see what other people wrote. The second part is you add to the learner's experience, to their knowledge. So unfortunately, it's a little too much of me talking here, but the adding is going to be me talking. You can use the summary. Each chapter, each module is something that you can provide to your teachers so you can add to their learning. The third part is to apply. Learners need to do something with that knowledge, right? It's not enough just to have me talking at you here today. So I'm going to have you do a couple of small things and then a task to take away that knowledge. What's the point of introducing knowledge if you're not going to do anything with it? So I am going to try to hit all of the nodules and give an overview, and you will do some apply and away. So stay alert. Anything going on in the chat box so far? Are we okay? A thumbs up if I'm okay to go through with 8 modules. Yes, got thumbs up. Kendra, yes. Christine, yes. Okay, thank you. You know, you can also use the, I love the reactions in the bottom of Zoom. You can do this with your students. I think that's a great way just to see if people are with you. Okay. So moving forward with the first module. So the first module or chapter in the book is on self-care. And you've probably all heard a lot that we need to make sure that our teachers are taking care of themselves. They're exercising, they're eating, they're sleeping, that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to highlight a couple of the aspects of this chapter that you might not have been thinking about, and that is routines and setting up a workspace. So when we all went to remote instruction, many of our routines were interrupted. Maybe you jog in the morning for 20 minutes. Maybe on your subway ride home, you listen to your favorite podcast. There are all these routines that were interrupted simply by taking away our physical building. So you might want to check in with your teachers to see, have they reestablished some of those routines? That helps to bring back a little bit of normalcy to life, and it's very important with self-care. A second part is setting up a workspace. This is my husband's workspace. He is a guidance counselor in the New York City public schools. And in New York City, you know, we don't have extra wings of our houses to set up offices. This is literally a corner, and it's a fold-out desk that he got and probably a $29 chair from IKEA, and he set up a workspace. And it's really important for teachers to have something, a corner, a nook, so that they can work at home, and also if students are seeing what's around them, so it feels a little bit like school. My husband gets extra points. Do you see his yoga mat under the desk? He does take breaks to stretch, because meeting with students one-on-one all day, boy, does that kill you. Teachers are probably, the incidence of back pain is way up because we've never sat so much. When you're in education, you're used to lapping the school as the leader, and as the teachers, you're all the time, you're up. So An anchor activity might be to have all your teachers take a picture of their workspace at home and share how have they carved out a workspace, you know, and what are the new rules in the house? Are you not allowed to have the laundry machine going during classes because it's too loud for the students? Do you have a do not disturb sign when you have your synchronous classes? So these are just a couple of aspects of self-care to make sure that your teachers think about. That's module 1. We're going to go through 4 modules and then I'm going to do a little apply break. The second module is the first days of school. If you are anyone in a school, a SAM, a principal, an AP, a teacher, you know how important setting the procedures, norms, and expectations are. I mean, at a scale of 1 to 5, how important would you say those first days are? I say it's a 5. Other people, first days of school, absolutely. So what happened was we shut down schools in March, and teachers didn't think, many teachers didn't think to create routines or expectations or norms for the virtual classroom. And so they didn't do that. Some of them did, but now is really an opportunity for everyone to have very clear norms and expectations. So I grabbed this image from the internet, and there are things about this that I don't like. I do like the color, it's very colorful and engaging, but there are things about this that I don't like. I definitely encourage teachers to just have a few norms, not too many. Phrase them in the positive, not no distractions, but how about, would you please shut down other tabs during our class so you can focus, phrasing them in the positive. You see the one about the camera, that's very controversial, telling students they must turn on their cameras. There are students for whom home is not a place they want to share on screen for many reasons. There are religious reasons why students may not want to show their family members images. So you can suggest that either they turn on their camera or they include a school photo and they chat from time to time in the chat box so you know they're there. Tell them you want them there. Make it welcoming. There was a big to-do on Twitter. Somebody posted her child's teacher's rules, and there were rules like you must wear your shoes and no drinking. And somebody posted, you know, how silly. If a student is more comfortable wearing socks, why not? I mean, I've got my water right here. The fact that I can have water right now is fantastic. So be careful, think through the expectations and think about the ones that are new for online learning. So perhaps you might have a norm that says, post respectful comments in the chat box, right? Keep yourself on mute when others are speaking, things like that. But it's important that they do recreate norms. Teachers can put them in their LMS, the learning management system, send them home to families, or maybe even use it as a virtual background. The first few days you can have your norms and expectations. And I do like the word norms and expectations better than rules. You could even have your students co-create them with you. All right. Third module. So the first one was self-care, the second, first days of school. The third module or chapter is about relationships, student-teacher relationships. All of us in education know there's nothing more important than the student-teacher relationships. Research has confirmed this. Students, you know the line, I can't learn from a teacher I don't like. The problem is that when we want as leaders to build positive relationships, it's too vague of a term. What does that actually mean in terms of concrete skills or habits? So I like that the authors have broken down positive teacher-student relationships into 5 areas. And some of these might be a little surprising to you. Like if you look down at the bottom, encouragement of critical thinking, yes. When we have our students involved with critical thinking instead of dumbed down worksheets, we are building relationships because we're saying that we believe in you, right? We believe that you can do more challenging work. Non-directivity, having student-centered activities that we trust you. We trust that everything doesn't have to come back to me, the teacher. Like Jenn, I'm doing too much talking now, but that we trust that students can guide the discussions. So these are some of the things that can build teacher-student relationships. And in a virtual world, one suggestion is that teachers hold virtual office hours. This isn't just to help struggling students, it's also to have one-on-one time with students, because just like Mark had us come on this meeting a few minutes early, that doesn't happen right now in synchronous classes. So where's that one-on-one time? Well, maybe if you hold virtual office hours. What about a virtual check-in with families? I know schools don't usually have conferences until like November, but this is a very confusing time. Why not schedule 5-minute check-ins for families just to say hello and build relationships? They don't have to commute to you. You don't have to commute to them. It's much easier online. What about polls? Have a poll at the end of your class, not an academic poll, but just to say, hey, how are you feeling from 1 to 5? Or, you know, who's had something good happen to them today? Share a joke, just to build those relationships. One other virtual idea that I love for building relationships is, instead of having written, or I guess typed, comments for your students' work, why not use a voice feedback tool so they can actually hear your voice? That makes them feel closer and more connected. And actually, I created a list, a one-page. I've been creating one-pagers for leading during these turbulent times, and I have one on building connections, where I have 20 ways to build connections virtually. You can email me, and I'm happy to share that with you. So we've got relationships, first days of school, teacher self-care, and the fourth one before we do our own poll is teacher credibility. The research on this is very compelling. The effect size of the impact of teacher credibility on student learning is 1.09. And what that translates into is that if you have one student who believes she can learn from her teacher, she will learn 2 to 3 times more than from a teacher she does not believe she can learn from. That is powerful. That is a lot. And so again, as a leader, you can't just go out and say to your teachers, make sure your students believe they can learn from you. What does that mean? So again, I like that the authors have broken this down into 4 aspects of teacher credibility. Trust. When you tell the students to bring something to a Zoom meeting, make sure you're using that in your class. Follow through on what you say. Competence. I'm going to get to this in a minute. Dynamism is your passion for your content. I know it can be hard sitting down. Maybe tell your teachers, try to stand up a little bit and share their passion and remember why they're so excited to be in this field in the first place. And then immediacy is how accessible and relatable you are. Again, it used to be teachers greeting students, walking through the cafeteria. They can't do that right now. So they need to find other ways to learn more about their students' interests. Maybe they should start class a couple of minutes early and do what Mark does, so that they can chat and say hello. But I'm going to focus for a moment on competency, because this is an area where a number of teachers, particularly now, are not feeling too competent. They feel like they need to master a ton of tech tools, but that is absolutely not the case. The authors recommend that you just master a few tools that are specific to the teaching and learning you want to do. And be honest. When you're trying a new tool, say to your students, so this is my first time doing this. I'm a little nervous, a little excited, but this is my first time, right? That is genuineness. That is building trust. Further, the one thing that signals to students a lack of competency is when teachers are all over the place trying this technique and this tool and that tool. That signals incompetence. So instead, what our students need now more than ever is a predictable learning routine. And in the summary and in the book is an example of a teacher who does the same types of activities every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not the same content, but the same structures. So for example, maybe Mondays are the day that I record myself introducing new content in short videos, and students know they're going to watch videos of Jenn on Mondays. Then Tuesdays, I'm going to organize breakout groups for students to discuss, grapple with, problem solve with that new material. That's always Mondays, always Tuesdays. There's a sample schedule, so that might be something that you want to do with your teachers, is to suggest, give them some work time to develop what is a predictable learning routine that they might schedule. So we have gone through 4 modules with me doing too much talking, and I am going to ask, I believe Mark has the first Zoom poll. Do you have it, Mark?
And you know, Jen, you were mentioning about how you don't want tech to get in the way. And so we have a little bit of an issue here because we can't launch that poll. Jim and I are both trying and it's not letting us.
Okay.
And so why don't we go ahead and not let tech get in the way? And if anyone has a comment in the comment boxes, I'll go, the chat box, I'll go ahead and forward it to you.
Well, I'll do the poll then, just with the chat box. So my question for you is, of these first 4 modules that I shared, which do you believe your teachers need the most help with? If you are a teacher logging in today, which do you need the most help with? And I will remind you, so either in the chat box, I'm going to have you type in 1, 2, 3, or 4 for which module you believe your teachers need the most help with. 1, prioritizing self-care. 2, establishing routines and expectations and norms. 3, developing teacher-student relationships at a distance. And 4, developing teacher credibility at a distance. So yeah, just type in 1, 2, 3, or 4. I can't mathematically count that fast, even though I was a former math teacher in a former life. It didn't include counting numbers in the chat. So, great. Looks like a lot of 4s, not too many 2s, so that's good. It means people are establishing their norms and their routines. Almost, actually, I don't even see any. 1, 2 from Deborah. But a lot of 4s, that teacher credibility. Yeah, there's so much bang for your buck with that. That is definitely a module worth sharing with teachers. So this is, after me doing too much adding by talking at you, this is a little bit of apply, right? You're thinking about the 4 modules, what I just said, we're taking a time out, you're applying it to your school, you know, what would be the most useful. Okay, so this is giving you a little bit of an idea. And if anybody else wants to post a comment, Mark or Jim can also share them with me. I will continue on. All right, hard to do a whole book in a short period of time. The 5th module is teacher clarity at a distance. What could be more important now than clarity, right? We don't have the ability to tap a student on the shoulder and clarify something. We don't have as much body language and facial expression to read. It's more important than ever for our teachers to be clear. And this chapter talks about 2 aspects of clarity. The first is the teacher's own clarity. Is the teacher clear about what he is teaching? Is he clear about the standards? I hope your school has identified some power standards to focus on, because this is a tough year to give equal importance to all the standards. I think research says that if our students do all of the standards we expect them to, rather than being in school from K to 12, they'll be in school until they're 27. So now is definitely the time to choose those power standards. But even after you've chosen them, are your teachers super clear about the content and the skills of those power standards? Are your teachers clear about their learning goals, their lessons, their units? There's a lot in this chapter about planning. The second part is conveying that clarity to students, right? How sick are our teachers of us always saying, make sure you post the learning aim on the board, right? And often it's a perfunctory thing they do, and students don't really know what's going on. There certainly are many ways that you can post your learning aim or goal or intention, whatever word you use. Teachers can put that on the LMS. They could, again, put it as a virtual background. They could send it home to families. But one great thing to do is to have your students internalize what those learning intentions are by having them do something with them. So this is an example of a distance learning log for the week. And one of the learning intentions is, I am learning to use information that supports an opinion. So what the teacher has done here is broken that up into 3 sub-skills, and then the student, him or herself, is checking off whether that student can do those things at the beginning of the week and the end of the week. And that's getting them to grapple with the learning intention. It's not just the teacher reading it or typing it into the chat box. So the student has to think, can I find factual information in a text as compared to opinions? Can I sort information? Can I analyze it? They might not even know what these things mean at the beginning of the week. Who knows? But anyway, so the idea is to make sure that students are grappling with the learning goals and the teachers are being super clear about what those goals are. And you might want to share this example with your teachers. All right, module 5, clarity at a distance. Module 6 is engagement. Again, you remember the quote from the beginning, we're all struggling with engagement. I mean, our own self, our staff members, but certainly our students are struggling with engagement. We have so many other non-academic reasons that students are not engaged, whether it's they don't have an internet connection, they don't have a device, too many people at home are sharing the device. But what I'm talking about here is academic engagement. And teachers may feel like, oh, there's so much confusion going on. Let me just give a simple worksheet to the students, right? There's so much chaos going on. Nope, it's actually the opposite. Students are more likely to sign online, to come to classes, if there are the kinds of activities that are engaging. Oh, and by the way, I have a couple of book summaries about engagement because I know a lot of people are really interested in this topic at this time. One of the books was written by Doug Fisher and colleagues. So you can search on my website all of my 120, 130 book summaries by topics. You can search for engagement, you can look for this book, or you can always send me an email. I'm happy to help you find things. But anyway, so when you're popping into classes, teachers should have the kinds of tasks that are engaging, that are open tasks, understanding tasks, problem solving. So, an open task. Instead of what is 7 plus 13, instead, what are all the ways you could spend, or how would you spend $20 to buy snacks at the grocery store? That's totally open. Some kid is going to buy those really expensive snacks that she never had $20 for. Another kid's going to go for quantity, those really cheap snacks that you can buy a lot. It's totally open. It's engaging. They might have to Google, supermarket prices. I don't know. What does a Snickers cost? Maybe they Google. So it's a really open-ended task. It doesn't have one answer, right? An understanding task, not the questions, what is the capital of the United States, but why might we have placed Washington, D.C. where it is? Why might it have been located there? So some more understanding tasks, some problem solving tasks. I love tasks that involve a family. This is a great time while people are home more and people are connecting over Zoom to have your students go home and interview family members, do oral histories. But these are the kinds of engaging tasks that are going to help students get online. And a word about synchronous instruction. When most of our teachers are not teaching, 9 to 3 class, they have just a few opportunities for synchronous instruction. So that's like golden time. Make sure your teachers are using that time well. They shouldn't be lecturing like I am doing right here. They can be flipping their classroom, recording their lectures, recording them reading a book at home, and then use the online time to have students work with each other. Students come to school often for social reasons. So let them go into breakout rooms, give them some time to chat and to work on problems. But really try to save the lecturing. And if teachers do have to lecture, it should just be 2-3 minutes, and then give students something to do. Write something in the chat box, go into a breakout room, write something by hand at home, watch. My daughter yesterday, she had to watch a half-hour documentary on the prison system, and that students were all allowed, watch the documentary, come back in 40 minutes. So yeah, keep it interesting and keep the lecturing short. So we had module 5 was teacher clarity at a distance, module 6 engagement, and module 7 is about quality instruction. And the authors have come up with this model in the pinwheel of 4 aspects of quality instruction, which of course all revolve around purpose. Purpose should be clear. So classes should be a mix of these different types of activities. Some demonstrating, right? Whether this is a think aloud, or I'm showing you this example, all the different steps, or maybe even direct instruction like I'm doing right now. Demonstrating. Collaborating, just what I said, having students work together to grapple with the material. Students learn much better when they're able to collaborate around their learning. Coaching, this is when we're supporting students at a distance. What can you do to give them feedback, to give them prompts, to give them encouragement, coaching? And then finally, practicing. This is the same problem we have even before the pandemic. You have teachers who are teaching reading and writing, and students never actually read or write in the class. So, give them 5 minutes, right? Actually write a paragraph if you're teaching writing. Students need opportunities to write. And the more teachers flip their classes, the more they can give them opportunities to practice, to get feedback and collaborate. So principals, when you are popping in and out of these virtual classes, look for these different types of activities. Is there a nice balance? Is there too much demonstrating? Is there too little collaborating? So this is an opportunity to give you something to focus on without getting into, like, you know, the details of the Danielson rubric, just sort of 4 basic ideas of what to look for quality instruction. And then the last module I am going to address, so we just did teacher clarity at a distance, engagement at a distance, quality learning, and finally feedback, assessment, and grading. I'm going to focus on formative assessment here because the research is just so powerful on this. Teachers who use formative assessment well get twice as much learning in their students as those who don't. Formative assessment is really powerful. It's worth using it as an accelerator at the beginning of a unit to see what students need to know. A lot of people are asking, oh, with learning loss, should we buy a lot of fancy pre-packaged assessments? No, before a unit, just see what students know, what they don't know. Have your teachers do a lot of checks for understanding at the beginning, virtual exit tickets at the end. I know that people are really concerned about learning loss, but actually a lot of what teachers teach, students already know. How many of you have seen the classroom where the math teacher is going over problem number 1, problem number 2, problem number 3, because that's the order of them? Why not use a poll, use a virtual poll to ask everyone? I mean, just like the poll we did, in under 30 seconds, you can find out if most of your students got number 2 correct. Don't go over number 2, right? Just these small checking for understanding will actually help accelerate learning. And there's so many virtual tools to check for understanding and see where students are. The number 1 problem that I've seen when I've visited schools with formative assessment is that teachers know, oh yeah, exit tickets, oh yeah, we're supposed to do all that, but they don't do the second part of formative assessment, which is check for understanding and adjust instruction. So the number of teachers I've seen, everyone loves Kahoot. They all use Kahoot, but they don't use the results for anything. Use the results to adjust your instruction. Should you accelerate? Should you go back? Do you need to take note of the 3 kids who need a little bit more help in your virtual office hour? So make sure that when you are emphasizing formative assessment, that your teachers are also doing something with it. So we're going to do the second poll now, which we don't have again. The second poll is just the same question as before. Of these modules, 5, 6, 7, and 8, what do you think your teachers need the most help with? So take a moment to think. 5 is clarity. Are they clear about their learning intentions? And are teachers clear themselves about which standards to focus on? 6, getting that engagement. Do they have students signing on? Are they giving tasks that are meaty and engaging? 7, quality instruction, collaborating, coaching, practicing, demonstrating, and finally feedback, particularly formative assessment. Now these are definitely more, one person wrote 5 to 8. I guess you got a lot of work ahead of you. Okay, great, module 8 for sure, yes. Formative assessment, well, it's a life changer, absolutely. A few 6s, the engagement, yes, definitely email me if you want my list of 20 ways to engage. Fantastic. And I have been talking a lot. If people do want to put any other questions in the chat box, you can add some questions, and I'm just going to end with the last 2 slides briefly. So if you want to introduce this book to your teachers, here's a couple of ideas for an overview. One, on the Corwin website, you can find it. It's in my summary. It's in the book. There's a lot of videos that go with each of these modules. A video is a great way to take a break. If I had more time, I'd give you a break from my voice, and I would have infused some videos in. It's just a very short time. So this is a video of Doug Fisher, who does a brilliant job of introducing the entire book. You don't even have to do it yourself. No planning. Just watch this video. And it's very short, too. Another idea is I put together a self-assessment of all the modules. So you could send this to the teachers, and by reading through the self-assessment, they're acquainting themselves with the modules in the book, and they rate themselves from 1 to 5. And you could even collect those as a way to see where to start. because as much as we as leaders think we know what our teachers need, we also need to ask them and find out what do they need. So maybe you think they need a lot of help with teacher-student relationships, but they really need help with coming up with engaging tasks that they can do virtually. So here are just 2 quick ideas for what you could do to introduce the book as a whole. And then finally, I'm going to bring back the 4 A's. Once you decide which of the modules, if any, you wish to introduce to your teachers, you can go through this 4A process. So again, the anchoring is connecting what you're about to do with the learner's experience. Like I did at the check-in, I asked everyone to share 1 success that they've seen a teacher have with distance learning. That's anchoring it. Then adding new learning. You don't have to talk at them, please don't, like I did. You can use some of the videos from the modules. You can share, I tried to keep my summary of each module to 1 page. In the book, I think they're about 15, 20 pages, but you could just copy the 1-page module. And I really like the idea of a live read. If you saw Kim and I did that at the national conference, people are so busy. So during PD, if you give teachers a 1-pager, they just need 4 minutes to read it. So that could be the add to their learning. And then apply. They have to grapple with what they've read. So put them into breakout rooms, have them talk about it, have them do a poll like I did. I'm going to give you all an apply in a second, and then an away. You don't want to teach your teachers about these modules for the heck of it. You want them to take away what they've learned and apply it. So what I'm going to do is have you in breakouts in 3 minutes, and I will copy and paste this into the chat box so you can see it in small groups. Share 1 thing you heard today about distance learning that you know your teachers already do well. Focus on the positive, always a good thing during a pandemic. And 2, what's 1 thing you really could have them work on? And then the second thing for your away is choose a module you'd like to commit to, and you can share that with each other, and perhaps even share what might be your anchor activity, right? So my idea for self-care is maybe have all of the teachers take a photo of their own workspaces at home to share what's working, what's not. I have a great self-care bingo too, which is in the back of my summary. So maybe you'd even, as an away activity, think about what might be your first step, your anchor. So I am gonna put those into the chat box. And now I am having technical problems. There we go. Okay, so in our remaining 2 minutes, does anybody want to ask a question? The self-assessment is in my, the book summary at the very end, or the handouts and the book summaries, all of that. So if you're shy, or you want to type your question, or you want to just unmute yourself and share it.
And Jen, we'll send a link to everyone so they have that afterwards when we do the, with the recording. Question for you, Jen.
Yeah.
Most of what you've gone over are things that you would do in a regular classroom in a real environment versus a virtual environment. But you've given a lot of really good suggestions and ideas about how people become more comfortable with that. You have a child, you've mentioned yourself about how your child's dealt in a remote environment. What's been a real success that you've seen a teacher do? If you said, boy, this really was a good thing for my own child.
Right after the George Floyd killing, she took time out, and she really allowed, she posted 4 basic rules for engaging, and she really made it very student-centered and allowed the students to discuss some of how they're feeling if they wanted. And I really appreciated her doing that. And she's built very strong rapport with the students, connected with them one-on-one.
I think that's really impressive, Jen, and it really points out that importance of the connection with students. And you've seen some educators who have actually connected in some ways even better when it's been remote, because they've been able to individualize even more, which is cool. I don't think anything replaces being person to person, but it's been impressive to see how people haven't let the situation keep them from doing the good work they wanted to. And Jen, your book certainly does, or your summary of the book really helps. And I was particularly impressed with how you connect this particular book with other books that you have reviewed. And you'd have the links right there in your summary. So thank you. I think I saw Kim Marshall here. Kim, would you take yourself off mute and say hello to your colleague, Jen David Lang, and anything else you might like to share right now? I may have caught Kim
Well,
unaware.
Jen, good to see you. Great job. Great, fabulous.
Thank
What
you,
you
Kim.
do is amazing. Taking a huge book in 40 minutes. Fabulous.
Wasn't that terrific, Kim? Wow.
Absolutely.
Just terrific. I know many of you know Kim from the Marshall Memo, and if you're a SAM team member, that's something you can receive. If you're not getting the Marshall Memo, a weekly summary of all the new and exciting articles in education and in leadership, go ahead and let us know afterwards. We'll have a link for you on the after email. And of course, Jenn David Lang is his co-author for a wonderful book called How to Use the Marshall Memo. It's terrific. And if you went to the national conference last year, you received the first version of that. Now the second part, the second book comes out soon, doesn't it, Kim?
Yep, we're probably within a month, we'll have that available to you. Well, we will announce it to you. We will not be shy about telling you when it comes out.
And we're going to have copies for people who come to the national conference in Tucson in January of that book as well. Jenn, I want to thank you so much. And everyone, I'd like you to wave to Jenn to thank her. Thumbs up, use your chat box. It's great, Jenn. This has been really terrific. We're going to go to breakout sessions right now. So those of you who want to stay with us in the breakout sessions. They will last, the breakout sessions, for 20 minutes. I'll give you a notice when the breakout sessions are ending. Jenn, thanks again, and breakout sessions are starting now.